What up, dudes? How's it going? So this is not going to be a series. This is another just little one-off. Something I was thinking about as I was looking a lot at social media and starting to go crazy a little bit. A lot of people are talking about freedom, and so I wanted to talk about the idea of freedom really quick. The context in which people are talking about it are is the context of whether or not like a government should be able to make you stay at home or make you wear a mask. Like, isn't America a place where we are free? And so I think it's important to talk about what is freedom and are we free, and we'll kind of go from there. So what is freedom? Is freedom being able to do whatever you want? Because if it is, then aren't you also bound by your desires? Because a lot of times in the Bible, when it talks about freedom or being free, it's in the context of God setting us free from our sin, from our desires, from what is binding us. And so, in that sense, being able, and then there's also a warning. It says, "You have been set free, not so that you can just go do whatever you want." And we'll get to the reason of why you've been set free in a second, but it says you've been set free, so don't go back and start doing everything you want to do. But in terms of like a country and privileges that we're given, I think when we think of freedom, it does mean, well, don't I get to go do whatever I want to do? And don't get me wrong, we are very privileged and lucky to live in a country that gives us so much liberty and so much choice. But is that really truly freedom? Is being able to go do whatever you want whenever you want? Is that really freedom? Um, we talked about when we did our Heaven and Hell series, we talked about that episode of The Twilight Zone where this guy gets in a terrible accident, but then he wakes up and he's in this luxurious hotel and he goes down and gambles, and every time he like throws the dice, he wins, and he's just constantly getting everything he wants. And he thinks, he's got this little escort guy that's showing him the ropes and helping him along in the afterlife. And after weeks and weeks of just getting everything he wants, he starts to get really bored. And he asks the guy, he's like, "Guy, like, I'm really starting to get bored here. Like, isn't heaven supposed to be better than this?" And the guy says, "What makes you think you're in heaven?" Right? Getting to do everything you want to do whenever you want to do it, that's not actually freedom. Again, you're being bound by your own desires. Freedom is being free from being bound by anything, including your own desires. And so in the Bible, when it says you have been set free, not so that you can go back to doing whatever you want, you have been set free so that you can love other people. So that you can love other people. And so I know it might be frustrating to be at home or to have to wear a mask, but true freedom has not been taken away from you, right? If you are looking for the kind of freedom that God can give you from a country or a politician or any person, you will always be disappointed. You will always be disappointed, right? Because here's like the tricky thing about freedom, right? Much of the New Testament is written by Paul. And where did Paul spend the majority of his time while writing the New Testament? In jail. So it's kind of interesting that a guy who spent most of his time in prison talked about how free God made him, which I think teaches us something important about freedom. It doesn't matter what your actual physical circumstances are, right? You can be free to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it, but you might still be imprisoned in here and in here. Or you might live a very restricted, structured, controlled life with little choice. But if you are free here and here, you are still free. You are still free, right? And it's actually sometimes beneficial to have restrictions, to have controlled, right? And not to just be able to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. It can be beneficial for us and for other people. I'm going to talk about Minecraft for a second. Just stick with me. I know it's been talked about a bunch, and if you don't play it, then it's not very interesting. But it'll connect. If you haven't played Minecraft, basically, when you start up a game, you have two choices. You can play survival or creative. Now, they both have pros and cons. Let's talk about creative. Creative basically means it's like building Legos, but in a video game. You can't die, nothing will hurt you. You can get whatever blocks you want, whenever you want them, so that you can make whatever you want, whenever you want, right? That's the place you go when you're just kicking back and you want to build something crazy cool. Survival, there are monsters and things that want to kill you, and if you want to build something, then you have to mine the materials to build it. It's a lot harder. Now, I didn't check with him first. Hopefully he doesn't mind me sharing this. I was talking to Richie about Minecraft, and he was saying he doesn't really enjoy creative. He enjoys playing in survival. And after you play for a ton of hours in survival, you almost get to the point where you're back in creative mode because you have access to so much stuff that you can once again build whatever you want. And Richie told me he's like, kind of once it gets to that point in the end game when I'm just doing whatever I want, it gets kind of boring. And so I go back and I start over again. And that goes back to that Twilight Zone thing. Being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, gets kind of boring, right? To have infinite freedom of choice is not that great, actually, right? But to figure out how to live in boundaries forces people to be creative, to use their brain, to overcome struggles and obstacles. It's what makes life interesting. It's what makes life interesting. So, freedom that God gives us is not in freedom to choose and do everything we ever wanted to do, because that's actually being a prisoner to your desires. The freedom that God gives us is in our soul and in our mind, right? And how once we are free from being bound by our desires, what can we then do? What are we then freed to do? To do something for someone else, right? And as things are starting to slowly open up, what's like the easiest thing you could do to show that you care about someone else? To put on a mask, right? To be like, I'm going to respect your boundaries. I don't know if your immune system is compromised. I don't know, you don't know me. You don't know where I've been. So in order to protect you, to make you feel safe, I will choose to wear a mask. I will choose to wear a mask. I will choose to stay at home. I will choose to be safe around other people. The freedom that God gives you cannot be taken away by a government, a politician, or any person. Because, again, if you're free here and you're free here, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. So that's kind of my thoughts. I know it was a little rambly, but I just felt like sharing just based on a lot of stuff I was saying. about freedom, face masks, and Minecraft. We'll probably start a new series next week. Um, I'll let you know what that is as soon as I get it nailed down. I have a few other thoughts kind of swirling around, trying to figure out what a good series is for right now. I kind of had the whole calendar planned, and then some of those things that we were going to be talking about don't really seem to apply right now. So I'll figure it out, and we'll jump into it next week. But for now, I will say toodaloo, adios, sayonara, goodbye.